welcome to the Blood Brothers podcast. We are joined this evening by myself, Sean Coleman, Rob Parker and Chris MacDonald, a full house. And in our guest seat tonight, we have the amazing Lesley Kara, who is author of Sunday Times bestsellers The Rumour and Who Did You Tell, and now joined by The Dare, which is incredible. And over there, Rob's holding his up.
I am very excitedly waving it around.
Hi.
Thanks for inviting me on.
Thank you for coming. It's an absolute pleasure to have you.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here.
Well, you don't know yet because
I was going to say, says she before anything has happened. Famous last words. Yeah.
I'm very excited. Leslie, we last saw each other on the Bay Tales event a few weeks ago, and it was so much fun. And it was one of those barely held it together throughout the runtime for laughing. So, it was so great to do that with you.
Yeah, it was really good. I loved doing that. It was such it's just really nice to. It feels like being with old friends, even though we've never actually met. It's bizarre.
I know, yeah.
I wonder whether we're sort of at that stage both of lockdown and of being authors, where we sort of finally found the space where we can all talk to each other without having to go out, which is really nice.
Yes. Well, Of course, one of the advantages is being able to wear your pyjamas. I mean, I did make a bit of an effort. I put my cardigan on today, but I have still got my lounge pants on, I'm afraid to say.
I bet Rob, if he lifted his leg now, would be still in his pyjamas.
No, you will get.
Oh my God!
Oh my God!
Sorry.
This is like the Ranganation. Have you ever watched the Ranganation, where one of them reveals who's not wearing trousers that night? I thought, oh my God!
God, Rob, none of us were expecting to be naked from the waist down.
I'm not. I wasn't naked I am wearing shorts, but
none of us saw the shorts. All we saw was a big hairy leg coming into.
And a lot of horrible pasty pale skin as well. I am a milk bottle white human being underneath. Seriously, I'm also irritating one of those people that as soon as there is any sunshine, I'll put shorts on and flip flops straight away.
But do you go red? Do you get burnt?
Oh, I go hideously red. Yeah, completely red. Yeah.
I'm in shorts. I've been in shorts all day.
Oh my God! See? What's going on tonight? All these men exposing their hairy legs. Honestly, it's very good that people can only hear this and not see it. Trust me.
Yes, it's true.
Chris looks very embarrassed. I think,
I think Chris is frozen on a mortified face.
Frozen in horror. Oh, he's got lovely covered legs, Chris.
He's actually
I've got tracky buttons on.
Good lad.
Lovely.
Thank God for you. It's just because Rob sent us a photograph earlier of himself lounging in the garden, working in a matching pyjama suit.
This was supposed to be between us. No, this is. I sent them because I think my wife popped her head out the window today, and she said, even for you, this is a bit strange. So, because I took delivery of a birthday present, an early birthday present today, which is a helicopter chair, and it's a chair that apparently just floats in space.
Oh.
Outdoors, so I'm now determined I'm going to sit in this thing at any and all possible occasion, even when I'm wearing full matching pajama sets.
It did
look
an
frighteningly
comfortable. I really did think I want one of them.
Yes. I'll do a deal when this episode drops. I'll share that photograph. There we go.
I was going to say we want to see this on Twitter.
Yes,
I thought it's got a beautiful sort of shaft of sunlight coming down, and he's surrounded by this sort of aloes and other sort of tropical looking beasts, and he just looked a bit Hemingway.
I think
Hemingway
again
ever wore a matching pajama set. If
I plummet into some sort of crisis in my life, this was the early warning stages. Okay,
yeah.
This is where my friends, you should have taken me to one side.
I was going to say, do we need an intervention? Do you think?
I think Susie Holliday's already organising one after reading Blackstoke. So.
Yes. I'm not surprised.
Anyway,
this is not what we're here for.
It's not at all.
We're here to talk to Leslie. Leslie, the concept behind the Dare is just this amazing. It's an amazing little nugget. Could you explain it to people?
Shall I give you the blurb of the
Give
dare?
us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Right, well, it starts with a tragic accident, basically. The two teenage girls, 13-year-old Lizzie and Alice, are out for a walk in the countryside. And they start to have this silly argument just as they're approaching their favourite part of the walk, which is an open crossing, a train crossing. And the next thing Lizzie knows is she is coming round after having suffered an epileptic seizure. And Alice has been killed by a train, and Lizzie has got absolutely no recollection of what happened.
Jesus.
And so obviously it's deemed a tragic accident, but Alice's family and friends seem to think that Lizzie had something to do with Alice's death, and she's bullied and there are rumours. And so in the end, her parents move away. They go to a town to make a fresh start. And then fast forward 12 years, Lizzie's now a young married, well, she's not married, she's with she's engaged to be married. She's living in a new house with her fiancé, and things are looking up for her. You know, her epilepsy's in remission. She's thinking of going to university and studying because her exams were delayed because of her epilepsy. And so everything's going well for her. And then she hears a news item on the telly about another similar train-related tragedy. Another little girl has been killed on a level crossing. And this is like a trigger for all those sort of traumatic memories. And from that point on, strange things start to happen. And so the novel really explores what actually happened that summer's day 12 years ago by the railway line, and whether all these fractured memories and nightmares that Lizzie keeps having are just a result of her, you know, her dealing with the trauma of what happened, or whether something is, you know, more sinister is going on. And that's basically
it's such what I loved about it is just that moment where you go, you've got a slightly unreliable narrator simply because she can't remember what's happened. But then everybody around her is going, we think you did something. And it's that unpicking and unpiecing everything. And it's really hard to find a plausible way that somebody can be completely unknowing of what happened at that time.
Yes, I mean,
seemingly be innocent, yet could be guilty.
yeah, that's why I sort of decided to give her epilepsy. It's not a condition I suffer from, but I did a lot of research on it and read lots and lots of personal testimonies from people who suffer from it, and you know, did as much research as I could. The novel was also read by somebody who suffers from epilepsy, so it went through what's called a sensitivity reading, which I was really worried about actually, because I thought, oh God, what if they find all these things that I've done wrong and I've got to do a complete rewrite. But actually it was fine. There were just a few little tweaks to make it more authentic, and it was sort of validation for the research I'd done. But I wanted to give her epilepsy because I'd read lots about how that affects the memory, particularly the few moments before a seizure, because the brain hasn't had a chance to sort of lay down the memories, and so that seemed very convenient as a plot device, really.
No, but it's a clever one. You know, it's not that sort of like, oh, I was drugged, or oh, it's just it's the things we've seen a lot before. But I think just playing with that sort of mental synapse misfiring deal of epilepsy, you've already given that protagonist quite a lot of sympathy, if not empathy, with your reader before you start unpicking whether there's a truth or lie
and
in there.
it's tricky, isn't it? Because epilepsy is one of these hidden disabilities, isn't it? It's invisible, and there's still a lot of stigma attached to it. Not as much as there was in the past, obviously, but it's still, there's a lot of ignorance about it, and so that's why it was really important to me to get it right, and I hope I have got it right. But I'm always very relieved when someone, I've had quite a few readers contact me and said that they suffer from it, and that it rang true for them.
Good.
And made them feel like they were reading about themselves. So that was an enormous pleasure to me to have got that right. Yeah.
The only experience I have of it is that my dog has it, but I can't talk to him about whether he remembers anything. Definitely see that he's a very different character for the few hours afterwards.
No,
He doesn't know himself. He sort of looks at walls and barks at things, and things that aren't there, and he's just you can see that the brain is doing sort of weird things to him.
That's interesting. I used to have an epileptic cat, actually. I'd forgotten that. A little tiny cat called Betty who had epilepsy. And so I'd forgotten all about that with you mentioning your dog.
Little Betty-lepsy.
I try to go into as many books at the minute as possible blind, Leslie. So with this, when this arrived, no, I walked into that one. Very good.
Did. It's because
but I got it though. Which is a rarity for me. But with this, when the Dare, you were so kind sending us a copy. So I was so delighted when this arrived. Because one, it's a Lesley Kara book, so I know it's going to be good. And two, it's called The Dare, and it has this wicked cover that's super striking, and the delivery of the entire hardback is an absolute beaut. So I was like, no, I don't want to know anything. Just don't want to know anything. So when I went in and watched, it felt like a movie, yeah. When I read that opening, it's not quite the opening chapter because there's a tiny little teaser prologue first, isn't there? But then when the incident happens, it was just, I'm in now. That's it. I'm helplessly all in, and this is brilliant and spectacularly well written as well, Leslie. I absolutely loved it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's one of those that you kind of go, right, and it's finished.
Yeah. Utterly boorish, utterly compulsive. It's brilliant. And we text, behind the scenes to each other, like, how are you getting on with it? Like that kind of thing, like, where are you up to? That kind of stuff. And obviously spoilers are a big thing here as well, that we don't want to give anything away. So, but that opening scene, in terms of a hook, when you, did the whole book unravel from that one hook for you? Or how did it come about?
Well, it came about because I used to go on a walk similar to the walk that Lizzie and Alice went on with my friend Dawn. And we were, I suppose we did between the ages of about 11 and 13. And it was following a public footpath basically across the countryside, and we thought it was our walk. We thought we'd discovered it, it was a public footpath. Lots of people did this walk. In fact, I got really annoyed the other day because one of my old school friends got in touch with me, and he'd just read the book, and he said, I recognise that walk, that's my walk. And I said, no, it's not, it's my walk. But yes, so we used to go on this walk, and there was an open crossing, and there isn't now. We went back recently, and of course it had been made safe. It was all fenced off. There was a footbridge. There was no way you could get onto the, onto the track. But at the time, we used to go off and we used to take our snacks, usually Twiglets and cans of Tizer. This was the 70s, kids just used to go off and play. Our parents didn't know where we were.
The good days is what we like to call them.
Yeah, I don't think I'd have let my young children go off wandering in the countryside across open crossings at the age of 11, but times were different then. And we just had a great time. It was that age, when you're sort of 13, you're on that cusp of childhood and being a young adult, and so one minute you can think you're terribly sophisticated and we'd be talking about boys and this and that, and then the next minute we'd be getting all excited because a train was coming, and we'd hear the vibration of the tracks. So that obviously nothing happened to my friend. She didn't have a tragic accident on the railway line, thank God. But it just made me think, when we went back to visit it later, it made me think about memory really, because doing the walk again as adults, it didn't seem so much in the middle of nowhere. It just seemed we could see houses. There'd been houses built on the land. It wasn't that long a walk. We didn't get lost like we used to. And of course, the railway line was very different. So it got me thinking about how we remember things and how childhood events are quite significant at the time. And then, because they're skewed by our own preoccupations, aren't they, and what we're going through.
I think it's a fascinating thing. I have that conversation quite often with my sister, who's 2 years my senior, and we have such viscerally different recollections of identical events. Whereas I'm willing to accept that we just remember things differently, she just thinks I'm an idiot who is wrong. And you're just like, but memory is a tricky thing, and of course it's down to how much of our own self-obsession is involved in each moment of that thing, but also just like where you are in that space, what you've heard before, what you've heard afterwards, the other things that have tainted it, and then again how that story is retold and retold afterwards. I've got memories that I definitely wasn't consciously present for, that I feel are memories now because I've been told about what I did so many times that I
That's
can't,
right.
I'm
That's
sure I
interesting.
physically can't remember doing it, but because I was too young, but I've been told about it so many times that it's become part of my sort of sense memory, false memory,
Yeah, I've got a
Blade Runner
memory
memory.
actually. I've got a really early memory of actually being in a pram, and I don't know whether I do remember this or whether it's because my brother and sister told me. Because apparently I had one of those. I was in one of those big, old-fashioned bassinet prams, and my brother and sister. My sister's 9 years older than me, and my brother's 6 years older. So I was, the baby of the family, and they apparently took me out for a walk in the pram. My mum entrusted me to them, and they were pushing the pram and letting it go, letting it whiz off, and it went down a hill, and so they had to chase after me to rescue me. And
Goodness
it's
me.
a miracle I'm still alive, really. But I
Between that
have
and the
this
train
memory.
Yeah.
I have this memory of being in the pram and like looking out, but I don't know whether I actually remember that or whether that's just because they've told me that story
It's so
somewhere.
strange. I think early memory is so odd. One of my earliest memories, I don't think it's actually a memory because it's absurd, but I can remember it so vividly. And it was being thrown over a hedge by an owl that was a cuckoo clock, like a wooden cuckoo clock owl, picked me up and threw me over a hedge.
That's definitely not a real memory.
Yeah, no, but it was around the age of 2 or 3. It's like my earliest. That's as far when you trace back in your head. That's as far back as I can go. Is why was it throwing me over a hedge? He could have nothing better to do.
What,
The weird and zany world of Blackstoke. It started there. Started there.
Probably
So
did.
I want to unpick slightly why there's an owl in the cuckoo clock, but
No, the owl was the cuckoo clock. So the cuckoo clock, like its mouth opened and its tongue came out like, and it picked me up and threw me over a hedge. In the night, by the way, it wasn't day. I can see it so clearly right here. It's so odd. Yeah, it's weird.
Can I ask you a question about the dare?
Yeah, good thinking, Chris.
My GCSE child psychology is not going to come to any use here. So
Change the subject.
well done, Chris.
Well, first of all, I've kind of got two. Did you plan it? I mean, it comes across as needing forensic moving around, like, so much forethought. Was that something that you had to do, or how do you write?
I don't plan extensively. I do plan a bit. I'm kind of in the middle of not planning at all and planning it quite a lot. I sort of have I always know how it's going to begin, and I usually know how it's going to end. I like to know an ending, whether that changes or not, I don't know, but I like to know how it ends. And I have a few of the key scenes in my mind. But it isn't really until I get to about halfway through the novel that I start to find out what it's about and how it's going to work. And I actually wrote the whole thing and sent it off to my editor, and they loved the first half of my first draft and said it was practically good to go, but the second half needed a lot of work. They said it became like not a Lesley Kara book. It was much, much darker. And so I had to then rewrite the second half completely. It was actually really hard doing that because I was doing those edits during the first lockdown, and I really did think that the novel, I'd finished writing it, and it was a bit of a shock really to me to have to rewrite the whole second half again.
Gosh, I can imagine.
And interestingly, did you agree that it had? Could you see what they meant by it had stopped being a Lesley Kara novel, or did you think, well, hang on, maybe Lesley Kara novels want to go in a different direction?
I could see what they meant. I mean, I do feel that I'm sort of moving to a slightly darker. I mean, with my next book, it is a bit darker, and I suppose it's difficult, isn't it, when you become known for writing a certain type of book. Publishers like to keep you in that sort of same genre because they know that readers expect that from you. But I do feel that I can go darker.
It's interesting. You kind of have to then stage your career in incremental darkness.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I mean, book four is, which it has got a title, but I'm not allowed to reveal it yet. Book four, I don't know why they have these sort of they tell you when you can reveal. So
We shall call it the Dark Book. For
the
now.
dark book, yeah.
And if people
how's it going on that one?
They can always.
How's it going? It's going well. I mean, I'd finished I call it the first draft, but actually my first drafts are more like seventh or eighth because I'm constantly continually editing. I hone as I go, and I'm not very good at, people talk about the vomit draft, don't they, or the messy first draft. I just can't write like that. I have to make sure that each chapter I'm happy with it, and I pore over sentences and paragraphs and things. And I know that's possibly a waste of time because if I change things, that's all work wasted, but that's just the way I write. So I sent my draft off a few weeks ago, and I've got the edits back already. Actually, I got them on Friday, which was far too soon. I was hoping I would have about 3 or 4 weeks to swan about. Because you know what it's like when you get your edits back and you think, oh no, I've got to go back in.
Yes, no, I know. But I do. Oh, I don't know. Sometimes I'm developing this really bad habit now, I think, which I shouldn't say in front of Sean, who is publishing now publishing my work. I'm so sorry, Sean.
I'm sorry, my eyebrow has risen.
Yeah. I get this kind of like, I finish the draft and then I need to put it away for a little bit. And then I look at it and go like, no, I'm not ready. Not ready to go back to that just yet. And then it suddenly becomes right, got to be done now. And it's the same with the edits. Like, it's like, am I ready to do that bit yet? And it's like this weird percolation that just keeps going until the flag goes up in my head and goes, bingo, it's go time. And but I work on loads of other stuff at the same time. So I'm dipping in and out of other things and dropping into different voices. And I'm doing some children's stuff at the moment. And so I'm dropping into a totally different voice for that. And then I know that at the moment, yes. Don't worry. They might have to repackage me after what we'll call the Blackstoke fiasco.
It's no fiasco. People are
Not
loving
a
it.
fiasco.
No, I know, but like the fact
my
that
goodness, people have seen a darker side to Mr. Parker.
Well, yes.
The darker side to Parker.
But as we just learned, we can always go darker.
Oh,
so,
yes.
I'm not sure I want to see darker than Blackstoke, frankly. No, it was brilliant. Really enjoyed it.
I've just got my mum to start talking to me again. So yeah.
I love the day that Rob sent me and Chris a message on the podcast group and just said, "Mum, Mum's reading the book on the treadmill." And I was like, well, let's hope that the serotonin she gets from the running is going to keep her in a happy place.
No.
Once she's read the tunnel scene. Oh dear.
So, Chris, you had a second question, didn't you, Chris?
I did.
Well
Constantly bailing you out here.
Thank you, man.
The characters I find really believable, and sometimes in that genre, I think, that couldn't happen, or that, that person I don't think would act that way. But this one I was so in that world that I believed everything. Do you think a lot about characters first, or do you let them develop as you write?
I think they're intertwined with the plot, really. I know some writers do, lots of preparation work on their characters, and they sort of write detailed histories, everything they like and what they don't like, and all those sorts of things. I don't do that, but as I'm writing, they sort of reveal themselves to me, and it's amazing, isn't it, what your subconscious comes up with, because you write a scene, you don't really know where it comes from, and then you think, oh, of course, yes, that's exactly what they do. And obviously it's your own brain coming up with these things, but it's sometimes mysterious how that works. But I do think character is incredibly important. Obviously in the genre that I write and that we all write, they're plot driven novels, aren't they? Commercial novels have to be plot driven, but I think you can always tell when you've read a book that's just plot and that the characters are a bit two dimensional. It's not as satisfying, is it? So it's important to me to get the characters right. And I think particularly with the book I'm writing now, I think I'm even doing better work on the characters. I like to think that I'm getting better. I think that's that's something, it doesn't get any easier writing a novel, but you develop different aspects of the craft, don't you, I think, as you go along.
You get a bit of a confidence in your ability to create believable character and thus create decent story. Sorry, that was the alarm for the dog's epilepsy tablets. Just to bring it back to the day.
It's so on brand. Perfect.
So on brand.
Perfect.
That's
Can I
pretty
ask?
striking. Sorry, Chris. Go ahead,
Sorry,
man.
I was just going to complete my trilogy. I'm trying to work this one so that it won't spoil anything, and I don't think I will. But the reveal, or sort of halfway through, something happens that changes everything. And I don't think I've spoiled anything by saying that.
No.
Was that it's hard to do this without being like, was the change in perspective, was that, did you know that from the start, that who did what kind of thing?
No, that changed actually. When I was first thinking about it, that wasn't going to happen. It was just going to be.
This is so difficult, Chris. Why have you asked?
I know.
Sorry about this.
So difficult, isn't it? I've probably just given a spoiler there. You might have to edit that bit out.
No, it is a spoiler. It's just to confuse it.
Well, I think, but what it makes it does is, when you start saying things like, right, we can't talk about that, but you allude to it, and it makes it sound completely unmissable. Which it is, everyone listening. You have to go out and buy the dare. So it is completely unmissable. Because we had the same thing with Simon Mayo, where we had to keep, like, I was determined to bleep out that one word, and he kept using it, and I was determined because we couldn't waste it. So it was like, right, and it was just beep, 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 and it made it sound like, when I listened to it back, it sounded like the most exciting thing, conversation that's happening. I have to listen to this book now, read this book now, so I can just find out what on earth they're talking about.
That was a great episode. I really enjoyed that.
Oh, I'm glad. Yeah, it was quite nerve-wracking, wasn't it, Chris?
Yeah, I had to introduce it, and I was like, how do you introduce Simon Mayo of all people?
I was really gutted to miss it, because and then the boys were like, "Oh, it's fine," because ever since Chris said, "Oh, we've got Simon Mayo coming on," I was like, "Oh, I used to wake up with him every morning." He was like, "You can't say that. You can't."
To him. You wake up to him.
It's the same thing. It's just as bad. I think Simon Mayo woke up with a lot of people during the during the 80s and 90s. That's not a bad. See, this is it. Digging myself into a hole here. That was an attempted joke. It went wrong. That's because you can't you can't do innuendo. That's the problem.
I just can't do it. I'm terrible, Leslie. I just can't do it.
Oh, well, you see, I'm a child of the 70s, so I was brought up on smut and innuendo.
Me too.
Oh, would that mean is Roger Moore your James Bond, perhaps?
Yeah. I mean, he's not my favoured James Bond, but he was the James Bond that, when I was growing up, yes.
I'm afraid
he's mine, I think.
I'm afraid Sean Connery's mine, but only because I met him at a BBC writers' dinner once, and we were next to each other in the queue for names, and our names were next to each other on the table.
Wow.
And I loved the fact that he had to wear a name badge. He's so happy.
No, Sean Connery is definitely, for me, he's the definitive James Bond.
Yeah.
Yes, it's hard to argue with that, isn't it?
He's mine. But
I don't think he could have mangled any double entendres as Roger did.
No.
I mean, even his name is Roger. Let's just get that clear. I did a rude joke then.
Oh,
I did a rude joke.
Oh, Robert.
I managed it.
But the problem is you had to point it out.
I did, yeah. And it's only taken, what is this, episode 64?
And you
or 54?
I thought you were going to go for episode 69 and we'd have had...
No, I would never do that. I would never do that.
Do you know, I was just thinking that, Sean. I thought, no, I won't say that.
We've got another one here.
This is the problem, Leslie, with being born in the 70s. It's just...
Oh, God.
Just makes us natural smut-born people.
Hi, I'm Rob.
I'm Simon. And I'm James.
We want to talk about those movies. Those supposedly bad movies. Those movies that bombed.
To see if they weren't that bad after all, join us every other Tuesday on the For Your Reconsideration podcast, part of the Pod Dojo podcast network.
You can catch us on iTunes, Spotify, and all your usual podcast apps.
And it won't cost you a solitary bean, mate.
It's like it's free.
It's just like it's free.
Can I ask about your vodcast podcast thing with Lauren North? How did that fall by?
How did we start it? Did you say? I didn't. Yeah. Well, I just had the idea that I wanted to do a podcast because I've always loved listening to them. And I think it was just, it was lockdown, and I thought, what could we do that is a way of just, reaching out to people and having some fun and just seeing some faces. I was missing going to all the events and things like that. But I have no sort of technological ability at all. I mean, I can now use Zoom, so that's good. But I thought, what I need is a younger person to be able to be editing and things. So, and I'd met Lauren a couple of times because she's local to me, and we both live in Essex, and we'd met in Waterstones in Colchester, and. We initially, there was going to be a third person as well, but they couldn't do it for various reasons. So Laurie was really keen, and we're amazed at how it's sort of taken off. I mean, it's only small, but we get some good feedback, and we just enjoy doing it. Really, we'd do it even if there was only 2 listeners because we just have fun.
Yeah, I think
that's the key, isn't it?
That's kind of where we started this. It was the PR company for my publishing company said the Sunday Times have been in. This was like the first couple of weeks of lockdown. The Sunday Times have been on. They want to know if you've got any authors on your books who are doing a podcast. I was like, no, but we will have by the end of the day. And then I texted these 2 and was just like, right, lads, should we do a podcast? Because it'll be brilliant. And we did. We recorded our first one just over a year ago now, and I had COVID whilst we were doing it. And that was the first one. And when you listen back to it, you go, "Oh, I was a bit sicker than I thought." You
sound ill, yeah.
Yeah,
really do sound ill. But it was fun, and we've done one almost every week. I think we've missed one week.
That's amazing. That's amazing because it does take quite a lot of time, doesn't it? To
prepare and then to edit and to upload. But it's as you say, it's amazing fun. We've spoken to the most incredible people, and what's been really lovely is just learning that everybody's on that same journey, and everybody's got their own hang-ups about writing, and everybody's got different ways of doing things, but at the end of the day we're all still people making shit up and trying to make other people believe it, enjoy it, and come back for more. And it's a weirdly unique struggle, but it's lovely to speak to so many different people of different varying successes and everything else, and you just go, wow, we're part of a club.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Nice.
Well, in work today, like, this has become quite normal, the podcast. We just do it every week and stuff. I was saying, like, just blasé, I'm talking to Lesley Kara tonight, and somebody was like, what? Like, you just come out with this? I'm like doing my ironing or whatever, and you're talking to Lesley Kara.
Do you know, that always amazes me when people say that, because I just, I don't know. It just seems bizarre to me.
Well, it's just me. I was doing my ironing just before. But I think that's what I was saying. That's been the thing for me that's so lovely, is that you kind of see these names, and it's names that you've known and grown up with, like the Simon Mayers or the whatevers, but and it's names that you admire, respect, whose books you would buy as an automatic buy as a reader, and then you go, oh, we're just chatting to them tonight. Yay.
Yeah, it's great, and I bet it's the same in Suspense as well, Leslie. That just sort of, and it's lovely sharing things with people, and that thing that chemistry is always something that I think in a podcast is always so important. And if you want to feel like it, when the content and the conversation is just flowing to the point where you want to join in. And I get that all the time when I'm listening to yourself and Laurie. Just that kind of, it's so nice and so great, and makes me want to get involved.
Ooh, I've got one. Ooh.
Oh, that's good to hear. Well, I feel the same about you guys, really do. But, it's funny because when we first started off, we we planned a lot more. We sort of, we wrote down what we were going to say. We didn't sort of say it off, learn it or anything like that. But we had sort of like, oh, you say this, I'll say that. No. But actually, as we've got more confident, it works much better when we just have a rough idea and just sort of chat,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think you feel quite nervous. I mean, I still get nervous. It's funny you saying, oh, Lesley Kara, but I get so nervous just doing any online event. I love them and I really enjoy them. And once we start, I'm fine and the nerves go. But before, like I did that thing for the Locked Up Festival, the High Concepts panel, I was really nervous.
Yeah,
Really? Because I've told you so many times, Leslie, when we first were put on something together, I was, I'm trying to think of what's a polite way of saying papping oneself? Is that quite? Is that
You were
okay?
taking photographs of yourself from
No.
the long lens.
No, I was
You're supposed to be an author, Rob.
I was deeply excited, and to the point of
I do have that effect on people.
Deeply excited to
That
the
was a
point
joke.
of nerves.
Well, no, it's so cool. It is so cool, and it means that obviously when we get out into the real world, it's going to be so special when we finally get to see each other and hang out properly and stuff. It's going to be amazing.
It'll be brilliant. I mean, I've only been doing this for a few years. In when did I first get my publishing deal? I think it was October 2017. So it's not long at all. And I'd been trying for a long, long while before then. So it all seems to have happened really quickly for me. Particularly, when the rumour came out when was that? December 2018. So it would have been 2019 was like a whirlwind for me. It was like all my dreams came true, basically, and I just could not believe what was happening.
Well, and then that shot straight to, that was Sunday Times bestseller, that was everything bestseller, that was top 10, that was...
It was gigantic, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And that was so unexpected. In fact, I remember when my my editor phoned me up in the January to tell me that it was that it had charted and that it was number 6, and I didn't even know what she meant, because I know this sounds really stupid now, but I never used to read the Times, and I didn't really. I mean, obviously, I was aware of Sunday Times bestseller lists, but I think, and when you're not in the industry, you don't really take much notice of things like that. I certainly never did, and so she phoned me and she said, "You're number 6 in the charts," and I remember thinking, what charts? What?
like, call me back when I'm number 1.
Number 6. And then she was getting all excited because she was walking home from work. And she said, "I'm by the Science Museum, and I just wanted to phone it." And I was thinking, okay, so I'm on a chart outside the Science Museum. I was bewildered. I thought, she must have thought, my God, this woman's mad. She finally, made it clear to me what was happening.
What chart she was talking about.
What chart she was talking about. And then it's in, and I thought, oh my God. I mean, all those years I wanted to be a published writer. I only ever really, my dream was A, to get an agent, and B, to get a book published. And, that was it. That was
And then when somebody says, "Oh, we're going to publish a book," you're like, "God, I hope somebody other than my mum reads it." Like, that's what you really want, isn't it?
Yeah, I love not Blackstone, anyone but my mum in that case, please.
She's already read it.
But I love hearing that, and I love hearing about authors' milestones, and how that first book came about, and those wonderful moments. Like, that's a brilliant story, that, and I remember similarly when we talked to Gillian McAllister, and she remembers she was in a meeting when she got the first book deal, and her agent was ringing on the phone, and she could see the phone was ringing, but she couldn't pick it up, and she knew it might be good news, so she had to go out and take it, and there was lots of scream, just lovely stories.
I've got so many stories like that, because the first one was when before I got my agent, I went in for a competition, the Daily Mail Penguin Random House first crime novel competition, and I didn't win it, but I was runner up, and I was on holiday in Granada with my husband in Spain, and we were in a cab, and we were going to the Alhambra Palace for like a trip, and so I was really happy anyway, because it was gorgeous. I was on my holiday. And then I got a phone call, and I looked at it, and I thought it was bloody Vodafone or something, and I was going to turn it off. And it was Luigi Bonomi, and he was one of the judges of the competition, and I knew he was a literary agent, and I'd forgotten that I'd gone in for the competition because it was so long ago, and I just thought, there's no way I'm going to win that, get anywhere in that. And he told me that I was a runner-up, and I just couldn't believe it. I was so excited that the poor man must have, he thought I'd misunderstood. He thought I thought I'd won. And he said, Leslie, you haven't won, Leslie, you're a run. And I said, no, I know, but I'm so excited.
Oh, that's
So
amazing.
that was fantastic. And then and then he passed the novel on to his business partner, Amanda Preston, and she agreed to represent me. And then when I got the deal, the book deal from Transworld, I was actually with my writers group, because I'd started a little writers group in Frinton, and we were all in the restaurant having a kind of writer's lunch, and just sort of chatting away. And I got the phone call from Amanda saying that I'd got the preemptive offer. And so we all were all cheering at the table, and then the whole restaurant joined in. And then I got an email from her, and then I went out of the restaurant to phone Amanda. And she said, whatever you do, don't tell anyone. I mean, the whole restaurant knew by that point. So it was quite funny, really. But, yeah.
Oh, that's super. That's
Top secret. Top secret.
Yeah, what level of support as well, to have that. That must be so amazing.
But Leslie, you're an alumnus of the Arden. Alumna of the Arden.
I think for females, it's alumna, is it?
It must be.
Fabulous. So. Learning all the time.
It must be. But you are of the Arden course, aren't you?
No, Faber Academy.
Faber Academy, yes. Where have I come with Arden? Anyway, doesn't matter. doesn't matter. So we have two authors of the Faber Academy. Maybe not your year, but our Matthew Ross is one, and the one that we're announcing tomorrow is Louise Mango's, and she's also one of the Faber Academy.
Oh, I've met Louise Mango's actually at Harrogate a couple of years ago.
No,
we had a sort of meet-up.
Wild swimmer, alpine skier,
brilliant.
Amazing writer of very, very tense. I mean, she sent this submission, and I basically didn't do any work for a day and a bit, and just read it and was like, no, I can't stop reading it. Sorry, had to do a school run, but other than that, it's all fine. It's absolutely incredible. Taught pacey.
Fantastic.
Thriller. So yeah, it's very exciting. But what a course, obviously.
Well, doing the Faber Academy was a real turning point for me, I think, because it was around about that time that I started taking myself seriously as a writer and thinking, you've always wanted to do this and you've not prioritized it. It'd always been like a hobby, a dream, but I never really worked properly at it. It was just a dream, and I would write and then I would send things off to agents. I'd get encouraging rejections and I'd sort of give up for another few months, and then so but it was always there ticking away at the back of my mind. So it wasn't really until I was a teacher. I was a lecturer in further education and a manager, and then I'd suffered from I had endometriosis, so I suffered for quite a few years and had some major operations, and so I was recuperating at home, and I got quite depressed as well because I'd been in a lot of pain, but it wasn't just the pain. I think I was depressed because I knew that I didn't want to be doing what I was doing for the rest of my life. I knew that I needed to write, and it didn't matter if I never got published. I just knew that I had to try, and I had to at least have a go at taking it seriously. And so my husband was great. He said, give up your job for a year and have a go. And I thought, I can't give up my job, but it was the best thing I ever did, actually. Obviously we had a drastic fall in income, but I was so much happier.
But it's an interesting thing, isn't it? I mean, we've all had this conversation. You work out what the base level is that you need to survive every month as a partnership, as a family, if all's going well, and then you go, can we carve? What's the window of time we can carve? And if saying take a year seems like a hell of a long time when you're turning down a secure position. But it's a nanosecond in a publishing career, which is also, you could be doing 3, 5, 7 before you make it work. But I think there's something about having to commit to the fact that you've done this and the whole family's done it on your behalf, that you go, right, let's knuckle down and make this actually happen. Because you've
think,
done that,
I
Rob,
love your
haven't you?
story. Yeah, well, yeah, but I mean, when we first got chatting, Leslie, I mean, I was stunned with certain similarities in our stories to come to publication, and it's one of those things where I love your story coming to publication because it's about that kind of. There's all the qualities I love in like a good news story, like it's finding the silver lining in a bad situation and making it work for you and coming out out of it in a better position than you were, or a much happier position than you were prior to that. And I think it's brilliant. I think it's really inspiring, and I think lots of people should listen to that story you just told us and take heart from it and seize those chances and go out there and if you're not happy with what you're doing, and it's okay also, to admit that it took me a while to admit that when because it was multiple knee surgeries that I needed to give me the chance to write, but it's admitting that it had affected my mental health during that time, that this wasn't the life I was happy with, it's not what I wanted. And I think it's brilliant saying that, because there'll be so many people out there who feel that same thing, and don't have that up until listening to you say that, don't have that confidence to go out and go, no, I'm going to do the same thing, I'm going to go and take this.
It's difficult though, isn't it? It is difficult for people if you've got a family and you literally cannot afford to not work for a year. I mean, I was very fortunate because we could manage, my husband was working and, we managed, but not everyone can. I do feel, but I think, you've still, even if you can't give up work, or sort of, not many people can give up work, but you know what I mean? Even if you can't sort of change your working pattern or take some time out, it's important to prioritise what is important to you creatively, and even if that means just working for, writing an hour every day after work and not watching some crap on the telly, you've got to do it. You've got to do it.
But I mean, look, Chris teaches primary. He teaches full time. He and he's written. I published your first on this 4th of February 2020. We've just published that series, and we've published 2 in another series. And you're still teaching
such
full-time.
Admiration, though, for people like you, Chris, because you're working all those hours, and teaching is such a demanding job, and it's a very creative job, isn't it? You put a lot of energy into teaching, and then you've got to come home and put that energy into your own stuff.
It's funny though. It's sort of like you said about watching TV. I think the hour where I can write is like relax. I know it's not relaxing because it is work and it's hard work, but actually getting into that different world with those people that you're sort of familiar with in your head is quite a relaxing sort of zen-like thing almost. So it's almost like a wind down before bed, which is a strange sort of feeling, but actually that's how it feels.
It's interesting for me that you can do that, because I can never write after I've done anything else. So I will because now I'm publishing everything, and I did have one of those sort of meltdown strops, and I was having a big walk and a shout and a rant and going, I'm publishing everybody else's stuff and I don't have any time to write my own stuff, blah 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 blah, and had a proper little rant about it, and then was basically told to get in the box and just carve time, write your own stuff. So I write on a Wednesday morning and a Thursday morning for a couple of hours each, and I try and do a couple of thousand words on each of those couple of hours. So then you've got your sort of slow progression of words and movement in the right direction. But I can't do it if I even pick up emails or anything else for work. Then I'm just like, no, I've got too much work to do. And I'll not do it, and I have to just go straight from sleep to write, and then I can go to work afterwards. But I couldn't possibly do what you do, Chris, and do a full day's work and deal with kids and deal with parents and deal with the staff, and then come home, deal with your own kids, have dinner, have a nice family time, put them to bed, and then go, right, and now I'm going to kill people, because by then I'll just be like, give me gin. or I will actually kill real people.
It's difficult. Do you ever feel because I used to feel selfish at sort of spending so much time, away in my own little world. And that's difficult, isn't it? Particularly when you've got kids, because you want to spend time with them, but at the same time, you need that time for yourself. It's a fine balance, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I was lucky when I really started my taking it seriously. My boys were teenagers, so we've got my husband and I. We've got 5 boys between us, so that was a bit of a noisy old house. But
So I think, Chris, you're lucky at the moment because your girls are little and go to bed early.
Yeah.
But that's going to change real soon. So
you'll never hear from me again.
McDonald may slow down in the old writing.
Yeah. Chris, we had some. I saw we had some Twitter questions, didn't we?
We did. We've sort of covered Nikki Smith's. She asked about where did the inspiration come and was there a railway near your house, and we've kind of talked about that. But I thought Colin from
Hey, Nikki.
And yes, hello, Nikki. Colin Frankowski asked a beautiful question, which is, what is your most rewarding moment in your writing career to date? Soul-searching one.
Yeah, my most rewarding moment. I think it's probably actually getting an agent in the first place. Just actually realising that I wasn't deluding myself, because I think for most of my adult life I thought maybe I was deluding myself and that I couldn't really write and that I was just it was a pipe dream. So to actually have that validation from someone in the industry, that was all I ever wanted, really. I wasn't even to me that was my goal, to get an agent. The book getting published was kind of something beyond that. It was actually getting someone to believe and want to represent me was really brilliant. But I think rewarding, I there's been so many really that I get really pleased when I get messages from readers who say that my books have got them out of a reading slump. And a lot of people say that my books are really easy to read and that they read them very quickly. And I know some people think that, easy reads they say it in a sort of disparaging way, don't they? But actually easy reads are hard writes.
Yeah, I'd take that every day. I'd take that as a compliment every day of the week. If somebody said, God, I really struggled with it, you're like, oh shit, I didn't mean you to do that. For someone to say that it's got them out of a reading slump or that they spent all day and couldn't put it down, to me that is just worth everything. That makes up for all the negative, many negative reviews. But we'll come on to 1-star reviews in a minute.
You've listened before, Leslie.
Should we get, because that's all the Twitter questions, so should we go into the game?
Let's do it. Let's have it.
And we'll pretend that was planned. That was beautiful, Leslie.
I mean, it's like the One Show, how seamless this is on this.
I know.
They don't call me Lesley Segway Kara for nothing.
I thought they just because you like the little scooter things, but never mind.
I'm beginning to think that was a joke, and people don't actually call you Lesley Segway Kara.
You've got to stop doing that, right?
You've ruined the segue here. Right. Today, I've chosen 2 items from someone that has given you a 1-star review in the past. None for the dare. I had to go into your back
Don't
catalogue.
say that, because someone will be at home listening and thinking, she's got no 1-star reviews there. About that.
So I've chosen one from your back catalogue, and I won't say the person's name. I was going to, but that's a bit mean. But I've chosen 2 other things that they've done, and the first item is kitchen roll, but it's in little cones. So instead of like kitchen roll that you pull off, it's like a little circular water, like paper water cups that are like
yeah.
It's like that, but paper towel, so it's like soft. I don't fully understand it, but it's eco-friendly and it's multi-purpose. So was the kitchen roll 1-star or 5-star?
Ooh, was this a 1-star review for the rumour or for Who Did You Tell?
I was going to ask
rumour, I think.
The rumour.
Crucial to know.
Absolutely.
I'm going to.
You go
Liz,
first.
I'm going to say that it's a 1-star because I can't see that anything, the way you've described it, is going to be useful for any purpose.
Okay.
Unless it's for
I'm
Chihuahua
inclined to
poo.
agree.
Okay. 1-star Leslie, 1-star Sean. Rob, Silver
I
Linings
think
Parker.
it's Silver Linings. I think it's 5 stars because they used it to mop up the tears at their supposed disappointment over the room.
Oh, it wasn't that guy. It wasn't that guy who said, 'cause my favourite 1-star review for the rumour. I won't mention the name, but it makes me laugh every time I read it. It really cheers me up. It's just the heading is "Killer Twist, My Back Door," and I just love it.
God, I'd have that
I don't
over
even
my
know what
desk.
it means.
I'd have that over my desk as a
Did you
slogan.
say you don't know what that means, Rob? I think "my back door" is a euphemism for
backside. Yeah,
Yes.
But it's
For his body hole.
even I wouldn't dumb it down as much as that.
Rob.
No, not the book. The word backside.
No, I don't think it's backside because that's the entire bum region. I think what the back door is specifically
The arse.
the anal region.
Oh, right.
Goodness
Okay.
me. Well, I would have such a thought in the first place. So
Well, let's hope nobody threatens to
not
smash
him.
through your back doors.
Sorry, I've
Anyway,
lowered the
moving
tone, haven't I?
You
I've
really
lowered-
have. Look at your score.
It's normally Rob, and this week it's me. Oh, dear.
lowered any tone. The tone is always consistently high with me, Leslie. I think it's very keen to point out.
I think it's the children of the 70s who've lowered the tone.
Sorry.
What's the other item, Chris?
Well,
Bring us back.
well shall I tell you what the score is?
Yes.
There's a point to Sean and Leslie here. It was 1 star. And Sean, it was interesting that you said there was no purpose for it, because this reviewer has given 2 purposes for it.
Oh dear.
She says, I must have been stupid to fall for all the good reviews. They don't efficiently clean up spills. They are too small for most jobs and too thin for every other job. Yes, they're great for making silly little cones for silly little somethings, and for teeny tiny table napkins for dolls' tea parties.
Do you think it was designed as a little, like a little kitchen towel that you could stick your finger in? Just wipe up that tiny
Maybe.
spill that didn't want to have to use a...
Are they small? I thought they were like massive, like giant, like dunce's hats. Is that not right?
No, I
somewhere
think that
between you two. A water cup. I said water
between
cup,
a
and I've
dunce
seen a
and a
picture.
tiny
So
finger.
picture a water cup. The second one is a jumbo pack of cashew nuts.
Oh.
I mean, by
what's not to
jumbo, are we
love?
talking
Oh
kilos?
no!
1 kilogram, roasted, salted.
I mean, you've got to love the
Nearly
cashew,
spat
otherwise those
everywhere.
are going to go a bit plappy after a week or so of opening, unless you've got a sealed jar.
It's a sealed jar.
Oh, right.
Oh.
Then 5 stars.
No, I don't want to agree with Sean again, because it make it sound like I'm just saying what you're saying. I think 1 star, because maybe they weren't as fresh. Maybe the seal was broken or tampered with, and they weren't as fresh as they could have been.
There's a lot of
Lovely.
cashew to get through in a...
It is. Rob?
I am going to say 1 star also because I'm allergic to nuts. So
Okay.
I did not know that.
I know it's not all nuts. Honestly, it's such a. We'll talk about it off air. It's just some nuts. Did you know that peanuts are not nuts? They're legumes. There you go.
Are you allergic to macadamias then? Let's not go
Yes.
into this. I thought you might be. Good.
Yes.
Now I know how
let's
to
not
kill
go
you.
there. But no,
This-
nuts just blanket remind me of puffy lips and not being able to breathe. So 1 star.
Okay, so this person did get a 1 star, so well done, Leslie and Rob. Leslie's our winner for this week.
Oh
Tasteless.
yes.
These cashews are horribly dry and tasteless, apart from the ones that taste a bit mouldy.
Wow, that is a one-star.
Mouldy was used as a sort of like a plus point in this.
At least it had taste.
I mean, they had to be bad. Leslie, what are you reading at the minute?
I'll tell you what I'm reading at the minute. I'm reading The Murder Box by Olivia Kiernan. Well, I haven't started it. I'm just about to start that tonight.
I haven't got it yet.
I haven't got one either.
I'm also really looking forward to reading the.
That is a beautiful
So
thing.
good.
Round of applause. What a book that is.
That was one of those that it came through the door, and my girlfriend picked it up and read the first chapter, just standing at the door. Just was like, can I read this book? And you're like, yeah, okay. I'll read it after you then. You can
it was The Last Thing to Burn by Will Dean was what got held up, everyone, actually, because we were talking about.
Did we not say?
Sorry.
Mrs. Parker's just listened to it on audiobook, and so she's been lying in bed next to me listening to it. So I've been talking drivel at her, like, oh, I wonder what we're doing tomorrow and all this kind of stuff. And she's not listened at all. It's because she's been in the world of Will Dean, which I should really say there's something wrong with this. But what a lovely man.
Your wife's been in bed with Will Dean.
Well, you were in bed with Simon Mayo earlier. That's not that's not.
I mean, when
libelous.
I was a teenager.
Slander? Libel? I don't know what it is. Anyway. Chris, what are you reading? Moving swiftly on.
Well, I'm about to finish, or pretty near to finish, Falling by T.J. Newman. And then I'm going to start The Perfect Lie by Joe Spain.
I have it.
Nice.
Lovely.
Nice.
I also have that. That's my next
one.
What about you, Sean?
That's my next one. I'm
Perfect Lie.
exactly on the same train as Chris. I've got about a third of Falling left to go.
How are you finding it?
Isn't it?
Loving it. Loving it.
Yeah, it is good.
And then I'm really looking forward to reading, because I love Joe Spain, so I'm really looking forward to reading The Perfect Lie.
Cool.
But I'm also reading an absolute ton of excellent submissions.
Coolies. Sorry, I held this up early. This is Phosphate Rocks by Fiona Erskine, which I'm reading at the moment. I've never read anything like this. It's absolutely superb. It comes out from Sandstone Press in the summertime.
I saw this the other day. This is several numbers of death by several numbers of objects, isn't it? That's the
a death in 10 objects.
Yeah.
I literally it's so beautifully written, so unique, and it burrows its way into your heart. This is a stunning book.
Phosphate Rocks. Right.
Yeah, I would recommend it to
recommendations.
Anyway, if you like the written word in any way, I would recommend that. Coolies.
Well, I've made a note of that.
Oh, yeah, super dupes. Super dupes.
It's good to know, and obviously, we're all planning for when we can all get to see each other. Just so we can air everything out here. I'm fatally allergic to coriander, so if anybody is
seriously
a curry, no nuts or coriander, and Rob and I will live the day. But if you really want to get rid of us, about 50p in a corner shop, and we'll both be done.
Yes.
I've never heard of anyone being allergic to coriander. That's interesting.
I've only met one other person, and they were also South African. But I'm sure there are other people. There's something. It's fine. It's just whatever's on the leaf itself. So it's fresh. If it's dried or it's been cooked down for a while, it's fine. But if it's fresh, I've got about 5 minutes before my vibe stops being.
So do you carry a little EpiPen with you?
I did do for ages, but it's not actually strong enough. So now I just take a taster with me who has to taste all green things.
Is it like a canary? Like they're just, I'm dead.
It's
Won't
just
be
a girlfriend.
that.
Is that coriander? Yes. Well, I won't eat it then.
Oh my word!
Isn't it? I know you've escaped a shark before, so you can outrun a shark, but you're letting a little bit of spice or herb or whatever it is.
50p.
Life.
I didn't outrun a shark. I got brushed by a shark, and it took a little nibble.
You didn't. Yeah.
But a herb is you get a whole lot of the herb for 50p in a in a market. You could pretend that you were just making me a delicious curry.
I
Yeah.
absolutely love
Innocently
coriander.
eaten.
I love the
I
smell.
know, I'm the same. Yeah, I absolutely love it.
Yeah, well,
Goodness me.
don't bring it near me because death time.
We won't, Sean. We promise.
We won't. Gosh. What's next for you, Leslie? What you've got? Your next book, The Dark Book, is almost
Yes,
the Dark Book is
title to be revealed. Yes.
awesome.
The dark will
That's
be
gonna
revealed.
Slightly different because all my other novels, all three of them, have been written in the first person present tense, and this one is written in the third person past tense. So that's a new departure for me. Although I haven't found it that different actually, because it's the close third person, which I think has a lot of similarities, doesn't it, with first person. And there are two narrators, and it's about a woman who lives in a flat in London, and it's in the sort of area where I used to live, in Charlton and Greenwich and Plumstead, and her aunt's just been. It starts off, her aunt's just been brutally murdered, and she's arranging the funeral, and the other narrator is the funeral director, and as she begins to arrange the funeral service with for her aunt, she makes a startling discovery. But I mean, that's a really crap pitched, because I haven't really
sound great.
practiced the pitch, or I haven't worked it out yet, because I'm still editing the novel, so the pitch will get better.
Fabulous. Can't wait.
Well, I'm in already.
Yeah, count us in. And
Anything
everyone out there,
makes
go
me
out and buy the Dare immediately.
Yeah,
Don't
you
waste any
have
time.
to.
Go and do it.
Really
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
And thank you very much for joining us.
It's been
It's been so great. For me, Leslie, you're one of the most wonderful, inspiring people in the industry, and I love hanging out with you. And it's amazing because no slipped out tonight at all.
Interestingly, Rob, I hadn't pressed record when she said, "I hope no fucks slip out." So you've just said that.
I literally, I broke my own code for the sake of a gag that will make no sense.
And then I'm going to edit. And then I'm going to edit out my explanation so that you're just left ending the episode going.
I'm actually amazed I didn't swear, because I normally do.
The only person who swore on this podcast was me, following that up, basically.
Yeah.
Shame on you, Mr. Parker.
Potty mouth fool.
Can we put... That's the first... I've not said that word in a long time. We have to use a bleep thing.
Yeah, last time you tried to use a bleep thing, you put a fart noise in and you put it in the wrong place.
Oh, no. And it sounded like literally that one of us had absurd, obscene flatulence. And that none of us addressed it.
I'm always worried about that when Laurie and I do our podcast. It's not a lot or anything, but I've got a leather chair, and so it'll fidget. So every time I fidget, I'm worried that it sounds like that. So if you ever hear anything, it's not me.
Of course, you put a disclaimer on the beginning of the podcast.
Yeah.
It's the chair.
I mean,
It's the chair.
As it happens, I would rather go down as having had obscene flatulence instead of saying that rude word I said a moment ago. So please put a giant fart noise in. Yeah, a giant outcast. And let's just let it run that none of us addressed it. I just dropped the big one during...
Talking. Oh, God.
And no one pulled me up on it at all. Oh, my God. I've got a headache. I've been laughing so much.
It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to all of you. I'm sorry for your loss, Rob.
Oh, I haven't laughed so much in ages. Oh, dear.
Oh, dear.
My face is aching.
Yeah,
I know.
my eyes are watering.
Oh, dear.
Right.
Oh, well, it's been lovely.
Love you all.
Thank you very much.
We'll see each other soon, and thank you very much for coming and talking to us and laughing with our craziness.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Always great to see you,
Thank you.
Leslie. Take care.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.